This is the architecture of the matrix that we live in. This matrix has invented the rat race culture in America and is rooted in the false reality which we unknowingly allow by ignorance. And within this ideological subversion, the biggest lie we've ever believed is that we are our straw man. Don't know what that means? Check out this animated short by Paul Davies and Kirk Rutter.
The government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there is a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree to verbal and written contracts without even knowing about it, all spun from Black's Law Dictionary. For example, when the police say, "Do you understand?" you'll say, "Yes." What they are really saying is, "Do you stand under our authority?" Oopsie-daisy, you just created a verbal contract with them. Oh, you clever government. Did you know that whenever you register something, you are handing over title to the person you register it with? That's right. Whenever you register something with the government, they assume it belongs to them. Registered your car? Super! Now you are the registered keeper of your vehicle, and the government can crush it when you don't pay your, straw man's taxes. Expecting a new bundle of joy? Well, then you need to register your little darling with a birth certificate. Then they can start the process all over again and create a new straw man for your little one. Isn't that great? So when Junior grows up, he'll be able to generate revenue just like you have. When you notify on your baby by signing the birth certificate, your child becomes a ward of state, and if the government doesn't like what you're doing, they'll assume it's okay to take the child away, or make new rules for things they don't like. Not enough school? Smacking your child? Shouting too loudly? Then it's off to social services for the little one. When you get a bill, it's sent to you, but belongs to your straw man, not you. That's why bills, fines, and summons start with Mr., Mrs., or Ms. Sometimes you'll see your surname in capitals, just like on a gravestone. That's because your straw man is dead, and just a silly piece of paper, created before you could comprehend or even consent to it. When you go to court, you represent your straw man, so you, the human, take on any costs, fees, taxes, and fines involved for the straw man. The human you doesn't even need to pay them. But you made a contract with the court by appearing on behalf of your legal personality or straw man, just like the government knew you would. Confused? Well, don't worry. The government doesn't want you to know anyway. If you knew, you'd stop paying things like council tax and parking tickets. Because when you go to court, you are representing your straw man. You are you, alive and made of flesh and blood. Your straw man, or legal personality, is a piece of paper created from your birth certificate. And you think it's you. What a silly Billy. Would you like to know more? Well, then go over to tpuc.org. Get up, get informed, and get real.
Good Lion TV will be producing a film solely on becoming sovereign, as this can and will be our greatest tool in turning the tables and creating a mass awakening from this matrix. Have a look at what happens when someone knows about their strawman and defends his true self in court.
No, ma'am. I stand as myself and speak for myself in myself. And I am not the trustee over the all caps name that you're operating on.
Well, you're here in court today because you were charged with some charges.
I'm here in court today because I am making a special visitation. This is not an appearance, only spirits appear. Living men, living persons make special visitation. That's why I'm here, to make sure that you guys don't tainter my truthful, proper name.
Do you still live at 28 Flying Eagle in Manhattan?
Well, it is a storage unit that I sleep in from time to time.
All right.
I live in myself in this body. I am the living man.
Mr. Falgate, you were here. You were seen by Mr. Cutts on 9/3/13, and you asked, at that time, he appointed you a public defender. Did you apply for the public defender?
What use have I for a voice of ruin? They can only speak fictitious legalese to you. I speak natural living man's English to you. It's called common English. That's the only thing that I work in.
That's fine.
There will be no legalese used here.
Well, you were charged on the 31st of August of 2013 with obstructing a police officer in violation of 45-7302. You were also charged on the same date with resisting arrest in violation of 45-7301 of the Montana Code.
Those men were charged by me right back by staging an overthrow of the Constitution of 1789, an overthrow of the Bill of Rights, an overthrow of my rights to forage for food as a natural living person who was in hunger. I was searching for something to put in my stomach, as I am recognized to be allowed to do by universal law. Has nothing to do with your corporate fiction. They violated everything, and furthermore, for your knowledge, they violated Judge Holly Brown's Title 26 United States Code ruling, which I went before her and prevailed on 21st March 2011. DPO 9-58A is the case number wherein she evidenced that I am not a taxpayer because I am not a federal citizen. Federal law trumps state law at every turn. I have 9 judge rulings to that end, and that trumps state law. I am not registered crap. I am the living man, and I have the right to forage for food when I'm hungry.
All right. But you're here on different charges.
That
This
is
is not
what
Holly Brown's
stands.
courtroom.
Ma'am, you can argue this all day long. You're operating on corporate fiction.
I'm telling you, you're here on some charges which were filed in Three Forks.
I do not
Number
understand
one.
those charges.
Number one, you keep interrupting me, and I'm going to charge you with contempt, and you'll go to
Oh,
jail.
contempt of court is spelled C-O-double-N. I know about conning. That's navigation.
Sir,
Contempt is the storm.
I said, be
Don't
quiet
touch me.
until I get
Don't
through
touch
reading
me.
this
You
to
ain't a
you.
gun. Don't
Officer?
you touch me. I am the living man protected by universal law.
You keep
Just stand
talking,
down.
and you're going to be charged with contempt, and you're going to go to jail.
You have already contempted this place.
No, I told
by
you
the
I
fraud
would if
you're
you
trying
didn't
to
quit
get done
talking.
here. These are the living witnesses to what you're trying to do.
Very
You
good.
are trying to create a fictitious, fraudulent action. You are trying to bilk the Federal Reserve by
Sir.
securitizing in all caps commercialized name
Sir.
and
Would you
notifying
remove
them
him from the
that
courtroom? Officer.
they are standing in debt now. If you touch me, you will violate natural law. Do not come near me. I am
Then
protected
shush,
by the land.
shush.
Do not tell me to shut up. I am the living natural man, and my voice will be heard. That is the Jolly Roger. That thing you call the American flag with the gold fringe around it is the Jolly Roger, and you are acting as one of his privateers.
Okay, you're here on the charge of arrest.
I'm here by
arrest.
special visitation.
Right. And you're
I've
here
never
on
let you get away with
obstructing
this.
a
You bet
police
I'm here.
officer. To each charge, Could be up to a $500 fine, up to 6 months in jail.
I do not understand any charges. I only understand universal law and the right to live.
Well, you
To
pled
live in
not
peace
guilty.
and to live as I need to.
You pled not guilty in this
I
court.
never plead. Animals plead. Sound like, bah, oink oink.
I have a paper with your signature on it, sir.
It says prime evidence standing right through it. You bring forward all natural forms of evidence that I'm not prime evidence. I am the living soil. The dirt, the water, and the air has its own voice, does it not? It all supports
Sir?
forms of life, does it not? I am a part of that life. I am not your corporate fiction.
Sir,
Do not taint me.
you're here today on an omnibus hearing. You've already pled not
I am
guilty.
here by special visitation to see to it that you do not taint my natural living man's name.
Are you prepared
That's why
to tell
I'm
the
here.
court if you wish to go to trial on this matter?
This is a trial. Tell
No,
me it's
this
not.
isn't a trial.
Here's my
This is
jury
an
of my
omnibus
peers.
hearing, sir.
You cannot produce a jury of my peers because all juries are selected from a pool of registered voters, and the instant a person registers to vote, their natural ability as a peer to comprehend natural law has been dissolved and turned into fiction. There cannot be raised a jury of my peers. It cannot be done.
Excuse me for just a moment.
No way. Get back here and finish this. Hey, get back here and finish this. The judge has left the courtroom. There you go.
You win.
Yeah,
There is nobody in this courtroom. The judge has
Yeah.
walked out.
the judge will walk down,
I
everybody up
said
and
no
out.
excuse.
Everybody up and out,
I'm not letting you
Up and out.
go.
up and out, up and out. Follow the man. Get your hand down.
Thank you.
I've seen it before.
Abandon the court. Hang around. Let's go. Get out of here. Let's go. Don't dally. Let's go. Get it.
That's the kind of knowledge the Matrix has suppressed. Imagine if we all took a stand like him. Eventually, with the rise of the internet, the Cabal knew they'd have a problem. With the speed of data transfer, how else would they prevent Morpheus prototypes from sharing step-by-step instructions on how to unplug? February 8th, 1996. President Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act of 1996. The act was essentially bought and paid for by corporate media lobbies and radically opened the floodgates on mergers. Where 50 media companies ruled the airways, it had then become 6. The negative impact of the law cannot be overstated. The law, which was the first major reform of telecommunications policy since 1934, according to media scholar Robert McChesney, is widely considered to be one of the 3 or 4 most important federal laws of this generation. The act dramatically reduced important Federal Communications Commission's regulations on cross-ownership and allowed giant corporations to buy up thousands of media outlets across the country, increasing their monopoly on the flow of information in the United States and around the world. According to Michael Corcoran, writer at truthout.com, the Telecommunications Act of 1996 is not merely a regrettable part of history. It serves as a stern warning about what is at stake in the future. In a media world that is going through massive transformation, media companies have dramatically increased efforts to wield influence in Washington. With a massive lobbying presence and a steady dose of campaign donations to politicians in both parties, with the goal of allowing more consolidation and privatizing and commodifying the internet. Have a look at what it looks like when 5 corporations own the media.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories that simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 When a select few corporations own the entire mainstream, false flags are easily pulled off. As Malcolm X said, the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent, like they did to me for protesting at the Capitol.
What strain is that? What strain of weed is that?
Pinkberry.
Hey, can I ask why you're smoking weed in the Capitol today?
The events that took place on January 6, 2021 are part of a deep state false flag. But before we go into the story of Rotunda, we have to ask, what is a false flag? A false flag operation is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning blame on another party. The biggest false flag we've experienced in the United States is 9/11. We were told planes hit the towers and the Pentagon, yet we know this isn't so. Check out this banned video the media overlords don't want you to see.
The fire department was sitting here all morning. Yeah, they saw right there. I was wondering what they doing. I said, what is the fire department just sitting there for? That's what I'm thinking.
No, it wasn't in the commercial airline. That second one wasn't no commercial. No, the second one definitely. The first one I never saw. The second one I saw was big, but it didn't have any markings on it that I saw. No, I didn't see any. The second one, it didn't have, like no camouflage or anything. No, no emblems, no logos.
I mean, it was moving so unbelievably fast. The last thing I saw before the second attack was the silver underside of the plane before it went into the building.
The plane wasn't no airline or anything. It was a twin-engine, big gray plane.
Mark, were you close enough to be able to see any markings on the airplane?
It definitely did not look like a commercial plane. I didn't see any windows on the side.
No, it was a black plane. It looked like a fighter jet.
It looked like a fighter jet.
It was a military plane.
And it didn't look like a commercial jet.
Could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot.
Did you actually see the jet itself?
Yes.
And what type was it?
It was gray, to be honest with you. It was gray. It was it was like a 737.
They thought it was a fighter jet coming in to cover the city.
We've heard reports of secondary explosions after the aircraft impacted, whether in fact there wasn't something else at the base of the towers.
And the lobby looked as though a bomb had exploded there. All the glass was taken out. There were 10-foot by 10-foot marble panels that were once walls. Several people with their hair singed, skin hanging off. And at that time, we heard a huge explosion. What I feared, I never in a million years feared those buildings coming down. Never. I did fear a secondary explosion, or possibly a second plane. 30th floor. We hear another explosion.
I really thought it was maybe the end of the world. There was going to be more planes coming in. There was going to be bombs going off. I didn't know, to what degree they really just had us surrounded.
From World Trade Center, we took a hit on that last explosion. The man Bose is being evacuated this time.
He's dead? It exploded and all in. The fire department's happened? Okay. No pulse, nothing.
The third explosion, the whole lobby collapsed on us.
What was it like? What was it like?
Horrible.
It's like hell. You don't want to know.
The whole building just collapsed on us inside the lobby.
Is that a secondary explosion?
Yes, it was.
That was the
planet probably?
Yeah, definitely secondary explosion. Because we was inside waiting to go upstairs. And on the way upstairs, the whole fucking plane blew. And we just collapsed on everybody inside the lobby.
Similar to the first tower coming down, secondary?
I don't know about the first one, but I know the second one was terrible. Then there was a third one, too, after that one. You're in the building trying to help people, and it's exploding on the inside the building. So I don't think we're getting any worse than this.
Big boom, come down the steps, everything fine until we got to the basement, and then everything just fell in. I got trapped in there with another guy, crawled out, kept getting hit in the head, kept bags sold around, finally we fought our way out over the rubble.
Yeah.
Come on down.
You did all right. All right, way to be, Tom. Let's go.
This is clearly, the way the structure is collapsing, this was the result of something that was planned. It's not accidental that the first tower just happened to collapse and then the second tower just happened to collapse in exactly the same way. How they accomplished this, we don't know.
They're thinking about bringing the building down. They didn't say what building. They just said bringing a building down. Last few seconds, he took his hand off, and you heard 3, 2, 1, and he was just saying, just run for your life, just run for your life. And then it was like another 2, 3 seconds, you heard explosions. Like, boom!
Oh, you want to call your mother or something? Don't worry about me.
This was a boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something.
He said after the recent attacks which the U.S. has witnessed, the U.S. government ventured to point fingers at me, accuse me of involvement. The U.S. government has consistently blamed me for being behind every occasion its enemies attack it. I would like to assure the world that I did not plan the recent attacks, which seems to have been planned by people for personal reasons.
The president said that Osama bin Laden was the prime suspect. Why? There's just a lot of evidence.
Oh, the reason I keep insisting that there was a relationship between Iraq and Saddam and Al-Qaeda, because there was a relationship.
2/3 of Americans say it's not worth fighting. So?
Nearly 3,000 people died at the World Trade Center on 9/11, but the list of victims keeps growing. 70,000 men and women worked at the ruins at Ground Zero. Many now suffer from illnesses officially linked to the toxic smoke and dust, including respiratory and gastric diseases.
We all heard in the beginning, the air was good, it's okay.
Yeah.
Now that very same government's saying, well, cancer's not part of it.
3 New York City firefighters died of cancer on the same day this week.
More than 850 firefighters and emergency workers have developed cancer because of their work at Ground Zero. 99% of all firefighters and emergency workers have reported at least one respiratory problem.
And just the day prior to 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld held a Pentagon briefing announcing the mishandling of
$2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. To understand how the Pentagon can lose track of trillions, consider the case of one military accountant who tried to find out what happened to a mere $300 million.
We know it's gone, but we don't know what they spent it on.
Retired Navy SEAL and member of SEAL Team 6 and ex-CIA, Michael Jaco, sat down with Good Lion TV and shared his view about 9/11. Have a listen.
Yeah, 9/11 basically was, I predicted it actually coming. I was at the Naval Academy, and I told this was in August, early August, we'd get together with like 3-star generals and admirals and so forth. And we'd talk about, you know, what's going on with basically the academy, you know, who's coming through. And the generals were like, you know, Marine generals and, of course, the admiral that ran the Naval Academy. Very, very high ranking, very nice guys. I you know, hung out with them, talked to them a lot. So they trusted me, being a Navy SEAL, my military combat experience, being at SEAL Team 6. They respected me, had, you know, high regard for me. So they were asking, you know, what should we look at, you know, going forward? And just kind of like out of the blue, I was like, I feel there's going to be some kind of attack, a terrorist attack coming up. And it's going to be something we really need to be aware of here at the Naval Academy. I've been looking at the security here. It's not very good. We need to really look at the security. And I used to talk about the security. I used to talk about terrorism and stuff like that. They would have me brief. I would brief the whole academy, like 4,000, you know, students and you know, faculty and so forth. It was really cool. So I briefed them about terrorism and how I was like, you know, you got to like change up your pattern and move around different ways. And they kind of laughed at me because I would tell them that I never try and do the same thing. I even walk to the gym different every day, you know, at different times. And it's just the way my mind works, the way I do things. Everybody like had a real good laugh at that. And then, you know, a few months later, 9/11 happened. But I was telling them that I felt it was coming, and we need to beef up security. So they actually, I remember it was a female who was the head of security. They came up to me. She says, "Oh, thank you. I've been trying to tell them for you know, months, and they never listened to me." And so sure enough, we beefed up security. We found later that actually there was a list of targets, and the Naval Academy was one of them. And probably when you make yourself a hard target, then they don't hit you. Now, as far as like when I was watching when the towers were dropping or when they were on fire, the first one. So I got a call from my wife at the time. She's like, a plane just crashed into one of the Twin Towers. So like 2 years before that, I'd been in those Twin Towers. Like I'd done a hand-to-hand course up in the New York area, and I'd taken my group and we like made a side trip and, you know, visited New York and walked the streets and went up to towers. It was like, oh, that's cool. So I'm like, you know, on a certain level, I'm like looking there, it's like, oh, that's unbelievably tragic. But that's too bad, you know, because I'd known that a plane had hit the Empire State Building when they were building it. It was a B-24 bomber or something had crashed into it like didn't damage it at all. And I was like, you know, this is nothing. You know, they've had fires on there. I knew they had fires on there. I knew that they were designed to take aircraft, you know, like multiple aircraft and still stay standing, not be impacted or you know, no problems at all. So I you know, we heard, you know, the firemen going up, and I was like, yeah, they're going to put the fire out. It's no big deal. And then I saw the tower collapse, and I saw the other plane crash into it. I'm like, we're under a terrorist attack. And then I saw the one building collapse, and I'm like, somebody got inside. How did they get inside? That's incredible, because I'm a demolition expert. When I was at SEAL Team 6, we used to train everybody. We used to train the FBI, because they would come to us. I used to go to Australia and train Australians, because we were the cutting edge of demolition. I could take a manhole cover and make it into a shape charge and blow out the corner of a building, and it's big enough so we could drive a vehicle into a center block reinforced, steel reinforced building. There was probably thermite in it, but there was also directed energy weapons. So with the directed energy weapons, with the thermite that was put in there, as we found out later, there were teams that were inside that were on certain floors. People could hear drilling going on in the middle of the night. They took away the dogs, the bomb sniffing dogs, about 2 weeks in or out from, and the bomb sniffing dogs were owned by a company that was in the Bush family. So all of these, we started finding these things out later. Now we can look at and they don't show it anymore, and it's hard to find it, but remember all those videos of planes crashing in? Well, if basically aluminum plane crashed into the building, it would like collapse and like you'd see pieces falling. But these planes disappeared into the building. I remember seeing that. I was like, that's the weirdest thing. And now that we know CGI on the level that we do now, we know that they could manufacture that. So there were, like we've been talking about, they are hundreds, if not thousands, 1,000 years ahead of us technologically. So CGI on that level was something that none of us really understood or realized at the time, but now that we look back and it's like, that's CGI. The CGI they used on that. Everybody fell for this, you know? I didn't, but you know, over time, I started pointing it out. This was, I even drove by the Pentagon. I was looking at the Pentagon crash. I was like, there's no plane crash there. That's the most heavily, you know, watched building in the world, and they have like a 2-second, like, you know, like you'd see like a tail going into the building. That was a missile. I knew it. It was a cruise missile. So anyway, there was no debris.